Welcome to this webinar. So we are the Space Generation Advisory Council, which is a worldwide association, a worldwide organization that is gathering people from space. So no matter their background, no matter their profession, we like to meet around events or work around the project group that we have within the organization. So today we are more, and I'm pretty sure this number is out of date, but more than 16,000 members around the world from more than 150 countries. So it's a very diverse and vast community all around the planet, which is super cool. So the SGAC is basically like a space geek network all around the planet. We talk about space. We love to brainstorm about the space field, space topic, and interesting problematics from the space field. So we have today 11 project group within the association. So many type of projects, many type of research project as well. We have people discussing about space law. We have a project about space exploration, space medicine, space law once again, small satellites, and we have one project which is discussing about diversity in space, which is the very last project group that was created within SGAC. And that I will present you a bit more on the next slides. So every year we organize more than 40 events. So that was before the pandemic, because now we organize lots of webinars, and I'm happy to present you this one in collaboration with the Gender Diversity and Gender Equality and Diversity Project Group, which is the one organizing the webinar today. So about the 5 pillars of SGAC, so exactly as I told you, we have some global events. So event taking place every year in coordination, for example, with the International Astronautical Congress. So it's taking place at the same place of the IAC, and next one will be in Paris. Last one was in Dubai. So this event is called the Space Generation Congress, which is dedicated for SGAC members. We also have some other worldwide events, but when we don't do the worldwide events, we have also some local events. So for example, in France, in Germany, in Italy soon. We have some more regional events also with, for example, Europe or North America or Asia Pacific events, where we tackle the space topic of the region or of the country, if it's a country event. So SGAC members can meet during these events and discuss about space mainly, and network as well. So meet the other the fellow delegates and participants from their country. We have once again some project groups tackling about anything related to space. So many different aspects of space, not only engineering or science or rocket science or something like that. We have very broad of project tackled at SGAC, which is nice. You can have a look on the SGAC website to see the different projects that we have, and eventually apply to one of them if you like the idea. So yeah, a third pillar is the professional development. We really help people to meet, to network. We have some mentoring opportunities. You can become a mentee or a mentor if you have good things to bring to the young generation. So we help the community also, like, is really about helping each other, and we try to give the best advice. For example, when you want to apply in a certain space company, and we try to help each other once again. So it's really a good step for your professional life as well in the space field. We have a big part which is about scholarships, and scholarships to attend events, scholarship to attend space universities or any space classes or anything related to space. And so it represents a big part of the events. For example, the Space Generation Congress, the next one, almost half of participants are coming thanks to scholarship, so to allow people from the other side of the planet to come to the event almost for free. So it's a very good opportunity as well. And finally, some United Nations related activities, because SGAC has big links with the United Nations, and we have a permanent seat to the UNOSA, and every year we represent the voice of the young generation in the space field. So you can also follow the UN related activities on the website and the social networks. So this is all for SGAC. Now let's talk more about this this project group that is presenting this webinar today. So we are the Diversity and Gender Equality Project Group, very recently created within the association. So our three pillars are based on the events. First, through the organization of, for example, the SG France 2020, where the initiative was kind of born, which was called Our Giant Leap initially in 2020. Just in the very beginning of the pandemic, and since then we created and brainstormed even more to become finally a project group within the SGAC. And very soon there is the Our Giant Leap Hackathon. We have some members here which are part of the organizing team, which is going to take place in 2022 in Korea. And I think the recruitment is actually over since a few days, or maybe today, I can't remember, yesterday. But the Our Giant Leap Hackathon will be a cool opportunity to brainstorm about diversity in space. So I invite you to follow also the activities on or the website or such a network. We have some long-term projects within SGAC, I don't know why, within the project group. We have some communication and outreach that organize some any type of communication. We have some podcast platform. We have a magazine which is gonna be published soon. We have a research project group that is researching about diversity in general. We have Figures, which is one of the long-term projects, which is dedicated to like analog astronaut simulation, and we are working in collaboration with some teams around the planet that are simulating human space flights in almost real conditions, and we try to implement some experiments that are for diversity there. We have the Padawans project group, which is dedicated for kids in school, and we provide support and material to promote the diversity in space directly at the younger age. So very inspiring project group, long-term project, sorry. And finally, the Divinas long-term project, which is this one today we are part of. There are also quite some members in this meeting, in this presentation. And I'm going to present it just after. And finally, of course, we have some supporters, because we couldn't be organizing so many events if we didn't have any. So we have quite a cool list of supporters and partners which are supporting us. And it's not over, of course. With the Our Giant Leap Hackathon, we'll have also even more. So looking forward to see who else is going to support us for the next years. So just an overview of the project group. We have 23 nationalities represented within the project. We have a gender ratio of 85 female and 15 male. So it's for some reason there are many women working on this project. We have also 4 long-term project leads and 2 project group leads, which are Pauline and Julia. And we have a Slack where we can discuss these topics of 310 members. And finally, we are present on Twitter and Facebook. So if you want to follow us, you can go there. Finally, Divina's presentation, which is the little team of 9 people working on diversity during the recruitment of astronauts, and which is also the reason why we are gathered today. So our little team is mainly focusing on 2 big topics today. So we have one topic which is about astronauts with disabilities, and we study mainly the ESA Parastronaut Feasibility Project, and also see astronauts with disabilities around the world. So, for example, with the recent flight of Haley Arsenault in the US that flown with the Inspiration 4 crew. And we try to see the correlation between society and people with disabilities in space. And a second point of research is on astronaut profile evolution. So we try to see the trends in the astronaut profile through years and through space, depending on their agency where they got recruited. So we aim to study since the first flight of Yuri Gagarin in 61 until today. So we have a big database of all the astronauts and their profile and the sports they did when they got recruited, the age they had, the number of years of experience, and etc. And so it's yeah, two research projects, very interesting. And if you want to meet us, we're going to be present at the International Astronautical Congress in Paris in September, where we have two cool papers about these two topics. So it's we're really looking forward to present these the outcomes of this research, which is quite promising. So yeah, really looking forward to that. So to talk more about this webinar series and to introduce you the content of today. So last year during the ESA Astronaut recruitment, so ESA Astronaut selections, we organized 3 webinars, which were tackling the preparation to the astronaut selection. So we'll have first episode on why do we need more women astronauts. So it was tackling the gender diversity, and we had 2 wonderful guests talking about this topic. On the second episode, we had the tips to prepare your application from people from the field. So it was really interesting to get their advice, their insights, and also to know their background and what they do in life. So it was very interesting as well. And finally, a 3rd episode on the next generation of ESA astronauts. We knew these people would be applying to the current ESA astronaut selection. So we wanted to know who they were and yeah, once again, what they advise for having a cool CV and cool application to this recruitment. And today we are arriving to our 4th episode, where we have 2 wonderful guests. So Neil Hopper, which is a vascular surgeon at the Royal Cornwall Hospital, and he applied at the ESA Parastronaut Feasibility Project in 2021 last year. And so you were a candidate, and you will present us a very inspiring presentation on this topic and on how, like, all your story and very I would say, in a word, resilience about all of this. And we're really looking forward to listen to your very inspirational words about that. And Laura, which is a French polar expert and also a biologist from your education, and which also applied to the ESA Astronaut selection last year. And I think you went until the phase 2-1, if I'm not wrong. And
yes.
I'm pretty sure you will talk about it better than me during your presentation. All right, so I will leave the floor to our guests to present their history, their background, how they came to the application to this wonderful recruitment to do one of the best job in the world. And yeah, I mean, I will leave you the floor. I don't know who to start with. I would say with the order on this picture. Maybe Neil, you can start introducing yourself, and I can present your slide by my side.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Neil. And so reminder to everybody, you can ask your question in the chat or in the Slido, but maybe it's better in the chat of the Zoom directly. And in the end, we will have already some questions asked to the guests through a sort of panel-like way. So you can still ask your question that we will have time to ask in the end. So yes, the floor is you, Neil. Let me try to share the presentation. Maybe I can put it in big format.
Good evening, everybody. How is everybody? Too hot? Is it too hot everywhere? Yes, too hot here.
Let me share my screen. Oh, perfect. The floor is yours, Neil.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, I'm going to do something that every surgeon likes doing and talking about themselves. Actually, Tanya, I can't see the slides. Shall I share them from? I can't share them from my.
Let me try to find. Oh, yeah, you can still see your face.
Yeah.
I will share my screen. It's better.
A horrendous picture. Please get it down.
Is it better now?
Yeah, brilliant. So I was just going to talk a bit about my background and the path I had to trying to become an astronaut. So next slide, please, Tanya. I'm Welsh. I'm not English, and I'm 46 years old, and I am a doctor working in Cornwall, and it's fair to say a bit of a nerd as well. My friends would describe me as a nerd, as well as my my day job. I quite like hobbies such as 3D printing and electronics and model building. Just tell you a little bit about how I got to where I got to. So next slide. So back in 2019, I was on a camping trip with my family, and I started feeling unwell, sort of fit and well up until that point. So thought I had the flu, and went to bed early one evening. And next slide. 12 hours later, I woke up in my own hospital as a patient. I was quite poorly, had become septic overnight, and ended up on my own intensive care with low blood pressure and a high heart rate, and even more drowsy than my colleagues would say I normally am, which is quite an achievement. So the team filled me full of antibiotics and gave me some intravenous fluids, and I started feeling a lot better, except at that point I had a lot of pain in my feet. So next slide. So my feet had gone blue. There was not enough oxygen getting to them because of the sepsis. So I got transferred to the hyperbaric oxygen chamber for emergency hyperbaric treatment. And this was the first time I'd been in what is almost a spaceship, really, or submarine, an enclosed space, breathing high pressure oxygen. And after having several sessions in the chamber on the left, I was transferred to the mono chamber, which proved beyond a doubt I didn't have claustrophobia, because I used to lie in there for 3 hours a day, getting 100% oxygen blown into me. And next slide. My kids thought I was completely the opposite of Sleeping Beauty in the glass chamber. And unfortunately, those treatments didn't really work, and I ended up having to go to the operating theatre to have my feet treated. Next slide. And I ended up losing the fronts of my feet, which was pretty horrendous. My job, I'm a surgeon, a vascular surgeon, and in Britain, vascular surgeons do amputations. So I never thought I would be on the wrong side of the knife. But anyway, my feet didn't heal up. So eventually, next slide, I ended up having bilateral below knee amputations, which was quite a horrible thing to go through. So next slide. So after that, I really crashed. I was really depressed and down, immobile, wanted to give up, never thought I'd work again, and was in quite a long, dark, deep place. And time was going very slowly, and I was very bored. So next slide. I felt down, but I had amazing support. All my friends came from all over the country to see me. That's my dad and my colleague in the top left, and had amazing help. And gradually my mood improved, and I started to think, well, maybe I can get out of this rut and get going. Next slide. So I got fitted with prosthetic legs and started to set myself targets. I wanted to walk again. I wanted to get back to work, and I wanted to play with my kids, and managed to work through feeling miserable and started feeling more positive about life. Next slide. And the biggest surprise for me was my place in society changed. I felt like I was a chess piece that had been plucked off the board and put down in the wrong square, and I was trying to work out where I fitted in the world. It was quite tricky. So I was determined to make the most of this situation. Next slide. So I went back to work, back as a surgeon, and found it actually easier to do than I expected. You can see I'm Welsh by the Welsh flags on my legs. So I thought, well, that's goal number one achieved. I'm back doing my work. Next slide. And then I thought I'll try and do some stuff I'd never done before. So I started doing paddle boarding. I got a trike, and I even got a pair of blades and started running, and got my fitness improved. So I sort of got going, and all of a sudden I was doing more than I was doing before I was ill. Next slide. And all the way in the background was this burning dream. My earliest memory is going into the school hall to watch the first space shuttle being launched, STS-1, back in 1981. I'm old enough to remember that. I wanted to be an engineer, but somehow ended up being a doctor. And the thing was, I never really entertained being an astronaut, because back then, I wasn't the blonde-haired, blue-eyed test pilot. It was, I wasn't, and you could only really work for NASA to get into space. And weirdly, once I did try apply to NASA, and they turned me down because I wasn't an American citizen. So I thought, well, that's never going to happen. But next slide. I got sent this. I saw this, and I thought, wow, weirdly, through all this bad luck, I've actually now got a chance to do what I dreamt about. All of a sudden, I filled all of the criteria for the parastronaut selection. So I thought, why not? I'll try and give it a go. And it was amazing. It was the most amazing experience. Next slide. And it raised so many questions, and it was so interesting to me. It was how what is the point of doing this? How disabled should a parastronaut be? So there's no point putting somebody through who's got an ingrowing toenail. Yet would a double amputation mean that I was no use? Practical considerations like, I can't wear a spacesuit, or how would I get in and out of a spaceship, a space capsule? These were all interesting things. Do you actually need legs in space? Actually, is it a sort of positive? Is it an advantage not to have legs? Maybe all of these things started floating around in my head, and also the sort of ethical questions. Would I be a burden on a mission if there was a fire in a module? Would it be wrong for me to slow down my colleagues getting out, or would they feel obliged to come and rescue me if I couldn't mobilize out? There was all of these things which were really interesting things to consider. And also there was that sort of thinking of, I wear prosthetics, and everything advances when space is involved is the opportunity for technological improvement in materials and the way prosthetics are used. All of these things were really, really interesting to me. And also there was that responsibility, that thought of being a trailblazer, to be at the pinnacle of something new. All of these things were quite amazing, and very sort of driving me forward to want to get through the process. So next slide. So I ended up going to Hamburg, which was quite an adventure. It's another story. COVID stopped one assessment. Germany closed their borders to Britain the first time I tried, and second time they cancelled the flight. So I ended up doing a slow tour of Europe before I finally got there. But I went and had the most amazing sort of, well, it was a total of 3 days of traveling, going to do astronaut assessment. Next slide. But unfortunately, I didn't make it through. But I made the last 27. So to go from being in a hospital bed in 2019 to make the final 27 candidates for being an astronaut was amazing. And I, even though I would have liked to have gotten further, I'm still very proud and very happy to have got through the process, and we'll always have fond memories of the whole process, which was great. Next slide. So I have a few things I hope ESA sort of does. I hope they make good on the commitment. I hope that their parastronaut program is not window dressing. I hope it is real, and I hope it does mean that somebody the parastronaut candidate may not get into space in this round, but at least paves the way for the future. And I hope the candidate has a presence in the disabled community and inspires people to go on, and is a real advocate for making changes and getting disabled people into space. And I really hope that ESA are going to follow it through and make sure that this isn't just something to get a few headlines and tick some boxes. I'm sure they are. I think it is an amazing program, and it shows real courage, and and to take the risk of investing in somebody that may not at the end of it be an astronaut is quite incredible. Next slide. So that's me, really. So if you guys have any, that's me demonstrating my amazing astronaut balance skills. But if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Neil. I actually didn't see the drawings on your legs when you were saying that you're coming from Wales, but amazing. Thanks for sharing this presentation. We'll actually wait for the second presentation of Laura before asking some questions. But thanks again for this very inspiring words and presentation. And I want to ask directly, like, what's next for you? Do you want to I don't know, follow once again the space the space career in the future? If there are any other opportunities?
Oh, I would absolutely love to, but I'm 46 years old. I think that was my one shot. I'm not going to be allowed, but I don't know. It did make me reconsider my career to some degree. Meeting the people in ESA and all the other astronaut candidates, that was the hardest thing about not making it through the selection process. It actually was not the fact I didn't get the job, the role. It was the fact that I wouldn't get to work with amazing people that I met. And it's an organization where everybody works together for one goal and for one thing, and it's for the betterment of mankind. I work for the National Health Service in Britain, which has a mission to improve health, but it's the most horribly bureaucratic and badly organized thing in the world. So to go into this organization where everybody was working together in harmony for one thing, it was just sad that I wouldn't be part of that. But who knows? I would like to somehow be involved with it further, but I'm not sure how I can. But I'm still thinking about it. I'm working on it. But maybe NASA will have a 70-year-old cut off, and I'll be able to apply there next time. Or I can win the lottery and just buy a ticket and go up as a tourist. But I would hate myself to go as a tourist. Yeah, I want to do something useful, not just see the view. Yeah. Thanks,
Neil. But you're 46 years old. You still look very in shape from the videos that we saw. Thanks for the presentation. And now I will leave the floor to Laura, if I can. And now we have Laura, which is going to present her set of slides. If I can share it.
Yes, thank you, Tanya. Thank you very much, Niels, for your presentation. It got me very emotional. I think it was very moving to how you presented the things from your hospital bed and the way you had from being bad to becoming yourself again and to dream again. I love the picture on the paddleboard. It's really cool. My presentation will focus more on the process of on the application in itself. So, but I will introduce myself a little bit. Can you move to the next slide, Tanya, please? So I am a biologist by training, and in 2016, I went to Svalbard, which is a Norwegian archipelago in the high Arctic, and I fell in love with the extreme environment and the snow and the ice and the wilderness. So I stayed there for 3 years, and I trained to become a polar guide, which was not easy. It was the first challenge I had. And you can move to the next slide, please, Tanya. And little by little, I became a sailor, and I started working on expedition ships with a small amount of crew members, international teams. Here you can see me with my team to the North Pole, which was pretty great. It was last year. So I have a background of an adventurer, an explorer, and I love to challenge myself and to always push my limits further. Can you move to the next slide, please, Tanya? And so in March 2020, when I heard that the European Space Agency was recruiting its next generation of astronauts, of course, that spoke to my adventurous soul. And especially they seemed to be willing to hire more women. So I definitely thought it was with me. I had the first look at the basic requirements for this application, and it was you needed a master's degree, you needed to be fluent in English, you need to be a European citizen, which I was, and yes, and to have some extreme environment experience. So I had like the basics. Can you move to the next slide, please? And just to give you the timeline, so the recruitment process, so it's still not over, as you said, Tanya. It started in March 2021, and it will end next October 2022. And within this time selection process, there are different steps from application screening, psychological test series, practical and psychometric testing, medical selection, and then interviews until the appointment and announcement of the selected candidates. Can you move to the next slide, please, Tanya? Thank you. So I looked closer at the astronaut applicant handbook, and these are the requirements after the ones that I already mentioned. So you have to be between 150 and 190 centimeters high. that was okay for me. You need to have a body mass index representing a normal weight. A visual acuity in line with the requirement for private pilots, and a hearing capacity of 25 decibels or better per ear. Next slide, please, Tanya. So for that, I went to a private pilot medical center to make sure that I was in line with all these requirements. And here is my medical certificate. So I passed the test. And actually, that was also a basic requirement by ESA for the application. Next slide, please, Tanya. So there were other things. It's always more and more and more required by the astronaut selection. So you need to be fit physically. So to be a sporty person, you don't need to be a marathonian or to be an Ironman, but you need to be fit. You need to be proficient in swimming. Basically, because when you're, for example, in this International Space Station, it's like you're swimming all the time into the module, so you need to know how to swim. It's good when you can have some basic knowledge about flight operations. So if you are a private pilot, for example, it's also a plus if you have extensive underwater training, which means diving. Many astronauts from the NASA or from ESA, they train on the replication of the International Space Station into a swimming pool, and so they train in this swimming pool with the breathing apparatus, just like if they were into space, and they are floating around, of course. So that's also a plus for the application. Next slide, please, Tanya. More than that, you need a valid driving license. I guess this is to move between cities in Europe, because during your astronaut training process, you need to go to various places to train. Demonstrable teamwork skills. It's very important when you're in the space station. If you are only 6 or 8 persons living there for 5 months, 6 months, you have to get along well with your colleagues. You know, it's just not possible to be a person who gets angry for anything, or you need to show that you are able to bear this kind of conditions. And sound risk management, which means that it's good if you can have, for example, firefighting knowledge or first aid knowledge, or this kind of skill. So I didn't have everything when I saw the astronaut applicant handbook. I had part of it, but I thought, okay, if I want to put all the chances on my side, I need to train. And I gave myself a few months to really train and acquire these skills. Next slide, please, Tanya. So that might sound like basic, but I spent a lot of time swimming. I thought, okay, I have to be fit and I have to know how to swim. So I spent a lot of time at the swimming pool, and actually for my work, I needed a sea rescue license. So I put myself into this training. It was not easy. I came back home a lot of time crying, actually. Next slide, please. I also took diving lessons. So I had already my level 1 in diving, PADI level 1. So I went quite quickly to level 2 and then level 3. And then I learned the rebreather diving, which is a technique of diving, which is where you use this apparatus that you see on the slide, which cleans your air. So it's like a space suit. It works the same way. So it works with, I think it's called clay. It's a material which cleans your air. So you're always breathing the same volume of air. So it's called the closed circuit. So it means that the air is not getting out of you. Everything stays in the machine. So I learned that. You can go to the next slide. Please, Tanya, thank you. So this is me in Marseille last year. As you can see, I look a little bit like an astronaut. That would already put me a bit in the conditions. So it's lots of indicators that you have, like a computer which gives you the level of air that you still have in your machine, the level of oxygen that you're breathing. You have to adjust that because you have an injector of oxygen that you have to modulate depending on the depth, because at a certain depth, oxygen can be lethal actually. So you have to always modulate that. You also have to manage your buoyancy with the suit. You see, it's a dry suit, and to keep you warm, you need to inject a little bit of air into the suit, but not too much, otherwise you go back to the surface. Yes. So that's another thing that you have to pay attention to, and yes, what else? Well, as you can see, many things. You also have to be careful not to take the water. My suit was leaking. You also have to learn how to pee into your dry suit. You can see I have like a little valve so I can stay in the water for a long time and being able to do the natural needs, of course. So that's all the things that you have to learn, and the equipment is very heavy. And I was the only female on the boat for most of the of the time. Guys were looking at me like, "What are you doing here?" But that was okay. I had my goal. So you can move to the next slide, Tanya. So here you can see I'm on the left. I'm diving with my buddies. Oh yes, you also have some Nitrox bottles. These are bottles with a special mix of gases with more oxygen to help you get the nitrogen out of your body when you're going back to the surface. No bubbles, no. With the rebreather, it's closed circuit. Well, sometimes there are bubbles because we actually get the air a little bit off your circuit sometimes, but it's true that it's the word of silence, and you can see that the animals, they start to come close to you. The fish, they come very, very close, and they look at you like, "What are you?" And that was a very good experience. Yes. Yeah, very crazy but fun. And you can move to the next slide, Tanya. And so one point that was low also in my application was that I had no knowledge about flying operations. So I took my private pilot license. So here on the left photo, you can see me with all kinds of calculation, taking the theoretical part of my private pilot license. And on the right, that's the practical part. So learning to fly, basically. I'm not done yet, so I'm still flying. I went flying this morning. I'm flying tomorrow. It's a long process to learn to fly. So yes, I'm still into it. You can move to the next slide, please, Tanya. And also, I decided to communicate a lot about my application because I wanted a maximum of women to apply, because sometimes I think that we women don't do things because we don't dare, or we think that we maybe don't have the skills for a mission. And I really wanted to create like a community around this application of women who maybe were thinking about applying but would not, because you put yourself some psychological barriers for I don't know which reason sometimes. So I was very happy. It worked well. I was published in National Geographic, which was quite exciting. You can move to next slide. the 2021, I was so happy to receive a positive answer from ESA that my application had actually been selected among 22,000 other applicants. And that's the convocation that you receive. So you receive the address of the center, location, traveling details, and the testing schedule. So my day was in the end of October. And so you can see the testing schedule runs from 8:30 in the morning until 6 in the evening with introduction, test, break, test, lunch break, test, break, test, and end, finally. So it's a very heavy day. So it's great that they give you the things in advance. I received the convocation 3 weeks in advance so that you can get ready for it. You can move to the next slide, please, Tanya. So they tell you that your day will be divided into 3 kinds of tests. There will be cognitive tests, psychomotor tests, and psychological tests. About the cognitive part, they give you some examples of the test that you will undergo the day of your test. And they give you a training record so that you can train on each module, on each test, and get better at it for 3 weeks until the day you will be tested. So, for example, you have some basic knowledge in English, mathematics, physics, but you also need some basic abilities. So they test your perceptual speed, your concentration. They give you an exercise of cube rotation, your spatial orientation, your running memory span, and your visual memory. And for 3 weeks, I can tell you, I was doing only that. So I did only like 8 in the morning. Okay, let's do some perceptual speed tests. Later, some concentration tests, some cube rotation. Okay, I go eat an ice cream because I'm tired. I want to relax. Then go back and test again. And yeah, that was very challenging, but I was very excited, and I really wanted to go further. We can move to, yes, it's very, very tiring. You know, there were also some, so the psychomotor trick test, they are actually in the shape of how do you say, a flight simulator. So yes, you also have to practice on a flight simulator. And then next slide, please, Tanya. You also have some questions to fill that you have to answer by writing. And the day of the test, you will have some additional psychological questions. You can move to the next slide, please, Tanya. So the day of the test came. It was in October. And that's my promotion. That was a great, great day. There was no competition between people. There were people from all over Europe, from Sweden, Italy, Spain, Germany, other from France. And I really loved this day and to exchange with people who had the same passion. As you can see there, we are all together during one of our break time. And that was really cool to exchange. And I was thinking that any of them could be my future colleague. So yes, that was a great part of that ESA application. You can move to the next slide, please, Tanya. So that was in October. I waited December, January for the results. And in January, unfortunately, I received a negative answer from ESA. I must say that was very hard because I had given so much energy and I really believed in it. So I was quite disappointed. It lasted like until March, maybe April, and we are only in July. So you see, I'm only recovering from it. And I'm still in my private pilot license, so I'm not done yet with practicing. But when I looked at the results, I realized that I was one of the 154 French women who had been to this step. So yes, that's my little that's my little joy. Yes. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer you. Yes.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Tanya.
Oh, so if I understand well, when you learn about the application, you started training, or did you anticipate this?
Oh, yes, I started training much harder to put all the chances on my side.
Okay.
I have to say that it was a moment, it was during the COVID time, and the industry I work for, which is the polar cruise industry, was low at that time. So I had a few months ahead of me, and I dedicated my time to this application. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. You had some time to dedicate to it.
Yeah. Yes, that fell at the right moment.
Okay. Wow. All right. But well, thank you, Laura, for this also very inspiring presentation, which is very different.
You're welcome.
From the one from Neil, and it's great because they both complete each other. One maybe more on the past, the story before, and one more on the story during the recruitment. I have a first question for both of you, and maybe I can come back on this. So what, from your point of view, was the hardest part of the recruitment? Maybe we can start with Neil. Like, what was the hardest moment? Do you think it was maybe the CV phase where you were not sure if you were matching 100% the job, or was it after, during the exams that you went through?
I think it was quite tricky, but it's very doable to create a CV and a personal statement that ticks the boxes. You can sort of work out what they want. They want sort of leadership but also followership. They want the ability to think on your feet, and if you fulfill the academic requirements, then doing the personal statement is something you can probably do. I found the hardest thing was, I don't know if Laura had the same experience. It was the first time you sit down to do the tests, and just realizing that it's like, oh, these are going way too fast and there's too much happening.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm never going to be able to do this.
Yes.
But after a while, you realize you improve very quickly, and once you get the hang of them, they're not too bad. But it's that initial, when you first sat down, I really thought I'd made a big mistake when I did the test for the first time. So yeah, I don't know what you think, Laura.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I totally agree with you. When you first start the test, you can't believe that it can be so hard. And you wonder how it's humanly possible to get 100% at the test.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the other thing with the tests I found as well was there were ones that you were really good at, and I would keep gravitating back to those, and sort of would be reluctant to try the ones I wasn't very good at. And I think the overall thing, I don't think the selection needs you to excel in one thing in particular. I think it wants you to not have any gaps in your abilities. It's to be not to be excellent at one thing and okay at everything else. You've just got to be good at everything. That was my experience, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah, being in.
Yes, you have.
Go for it, Laura.
Yes, I agree with what Neil is saying, that you should be good at everything. Not excellent in one thing and bad at others, but just have a medium plus level at everything.
Yeah, I guess like astronauts are very complete on any every field, like at least on the teamwork and also on the control, like self-control and focus, and it's very very general, like super polyvalent people, I guess. But oh, thanks for thanks for sharing the insight from the inside of the recruitment. Yeah, maybe another question on the maybe more on the background slash CV, because you both went through the first step, which was the CV. So it means you have a CV of an astronaut, which is super cool. And like even before going through the other tests, they like you get a CV of an astronaut, which is crazy. I was thinking, so Laura, you said that you trained a lot for the application, and I was thinking, like Neil, did you also went through like all of this kind of tests and exams at home before applying, or did you go more like with the talent? I guess no, but I was wondering if you also trained like every day to reach this goal.
Yeah, it was good motivation for me. Yeah, my fitness improved dramatically. I went down the gym every day. I started swimming. I hadn't swum since before my operation, so I didn't know if I could swim. So that was an interesting experience. And yeah, it was. You have to put in a lot of work, and that's sort of part of the disappointment. Is you invest a lot of time and a lot of effort, and you build yourself up, because you know, I knew statistically I was unlikely to get through, but you still have to prepare yourself just in case, and that was so. I maybe a little different from Laura. I wasn't disappointed. You know, I was a little bit disappointed I didn't get through, but I already felt like a fraud that I'd got that far. So it was, I think I was glad the ESA selection process actually worked and stopped me from crashing a spaceship.
And you, Laura, did you said you trained a lot, but with if you unzoom a bit, did you wish to have trained maybe before you arrived, or did you feel like 100% ready because you spent three crazy weeks working every day on to reach this goal?
Well, before I heard about ESA recruitment of astronauts, I never thought that I could even think about it one day. You know, that was a dream that was too big for me. So I was already grateful to have the opportunity to get there and to be selected. But I must say that once I was training, I started really believing into it. And yes, I was disappointed not to get to the second step. Actually, I think I would have liked to go through the second step. But afterward, I started working again with my job as a polar guide, and I'm very happy with this job. So yes, that was my my consolation.
Yeah, you were almost
just
like an astronaut.
Just out of interest, Laura, would you like to have known your scores? Because I would have loved to have known my scores.
Yes. Oh yes, I would have liked to know what was my weakness.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah. It was. I was disappointed that we couldn't get feedback.
Yes, I agree. I agree, because there's still like a mystery.
Yeah.
Yes, and there was the Swedish guy that was in my promotion. He had taken the ESA selection for astronauts, which was 10 years ago, and he also didn't have the results. And he said that he was still wondering.
Oh, so he did the selection during the last selection?
Yes.
He never knew which was.
Yes. Wow. Yes, and he was still wondering.
There were a few in my group had tried before.
Yes, also.
Oh, okay. And yes, I saw it in the chat. but there are some questions about the parastronaut feasibility project. But it's actually a question for both of you, because I guess that you're both aware, maybe Neil a bit more than Laura. But so what are the, if you can share it, of course, but are there some adaptation at the stage that you did already on the fact that this was this running project in parallel of the feasibility, parastronaut feasibility project? Like Neil, did you have some like adaptation, or you were doing exactly the same test as the others, right?
Exactly the same. That the entry criteria was slightly different in terms of the medical. So I didn't have to get I couldn't pass. There was no way I would have passed the aviation medical. My disability would have prevented that. So I had to get a doctor's certificate to say that if it weren't for my disability, I would have passed. So so I had to get that. The other thing as well is you still have to be able to swim. You still have to be able to do all of those things. The only difference, the only caveats was they don't specify height, because they were also looking, one of the entries into the parastronaut program was a person of short stature could enter. Your disability, if you had one, had to be below the knee. So you could have an amputation or a club foot or something, but it had to be below the knee. It could be one side or both sides. The other thing as well was there was no other. You still did the same tests. You still did the same process. I felt slightly guilty, and I think it's one of the things, again, I mentioned that was interesting about the parastronaut program was it had to be the same, because I didn't want to feel if I'd got through because of my disability. I wanted to feel I got through despite my disability, and you know, I know the competition ratio was less for parents. There were 200 candidates who applied, and 20 went through to the next stage of selection, or 27. But you know, if for it to work, I think that the parastronaut who comes out at the end of the process needs to feel like they got there on their own merits. Yeah.
And are you aware maybe of I can imagine that the how to say, the parameter and the requirements before the selection might differ, of course, because you're physically not the same person in the end, but it's like, do you know if for future tests, if you heard about maybe you had a presentation of how everything would be doing later, like I know there are some physical tests at some point. I guess there are some adaptation at this moment, right?
And I think that was part of the I think the goal was to see if they could get somebody with a disability through the tests with a minimum or no changes, really, because like Laura alluded to, this is not like the days of Apollo, where you have to be able to hold your breath for 2 minutes and carry 50 kilograms up a hill. You know, to become an astronaut now, the physical requirements are still big, but they're less than they used to be. And this is a feasibility program. I think it's just to see, do they need to make any changes to the training? Do they need to make any changes to the selection process? But as far as I'm aware, that there are no differences apart from the entry criteria. You still have to pass the swimming test. You still have to have a certain level of fitness. How they measure your fitness, I don't know. If you have a disability that affects your mobility, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's why it's interesting. I think they're trying to work out what they're looking for while they're doing it. It feels like.
Yeah. Yes, I'm curious to see if finally they will hire parastronauts, and if they do, which disability this person has, because I guess that they also look at which kind of disability you have.
and that's really interesting, isn't it? Because they, I think it would be a pity if they hired or they made somebody who had a very trivial disability. Likewise, they don't want to employ somebody who has a disability that's going to make it really difficult for them to go into space. So it's personally, because it's such a visible role, having a visible disability, I think would be nice to see, so young people can relate to it. If somebody was missing a small toe and made it through, I'm not sure it would have the impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. Go on.
Yeah, I think it's like for women, it's a role model when you see that someone with disability can make it, and you can relate. And when you're young, or even less young, it can give you some hope for your recovery, for example.
Laura, you seem to be a lot into the also inspiration for women. I don't know if I have I actually think I have the infographic that ESA shared. Yeah, this one. From your point of view, and also Neil, I would love to hear your opinion about this. So since I think from the last recruitment of ESA, we had maybe more like 15% of roughly 50% of application from women, and today we have 25 for the last for this selection. What do you think changed since then? Like you were talking about role model, but is it also maybe the impact of communication about it, or like from your opinion and your experience, do you have any opinion on that actually?
Well, first, I believe that the society has changed, and there is more and more space for women to do the jobs they want to do, even though it's not always easy, as I experience every day on board the ships I work on. But yes, also role models are important. And through social medias, I follow some NASA astronauts like Jessica Meir. I don't know if you know her. She's a NASA astronaut, and her buddy, I don't remember her name. She has glasses, but she's also very inspiring. And I feel that many women communicate about the fact that they are the first women to do this, the first to do that, and also black people in NASA. They put like their profile forward to give the young generation some role models to be followed, and I think that's great, and we need that. And the fact that ESA helped communicated about the fact that they wanted to have more women in their teams as astronauts, I think that's also a step forward. And I was actually surprised that there were not more women applying. And so I think that there is still some work to be done, so that more and more apply. But it's already better. So yes, we are moving forward, not getting backwards.
It's amazing. I read, I'm sure you read it as well, Laura, it was Samantha Cristoforetti's book, Diary of an Apprentice Astronaut. And it was so incredible. She's just amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, very inspiring person.
Yes, she's very inspiring. And the fact that she has a family, also she's a mom of two, very often when you're a woman, you, at some point in your career, you feel that you have to choose between your career or your family. And she's showing that you can do both. And she's incredible for that. She's an incredible role model for that. Because some other astronauts, like Jessica Meir, for example, she doesn't have a family, And maybe some women think, yeah, I can be an astronaut, but then I have to I will not be able to have a family, you know, but Samantha Cristoforati and ESA is helping her also a lot to be able to carry out both her family life and her career. So yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah, definitely. Family life also,
Yes.
like, because it supports the astronaut actually. So
Yes.
I see a question from the chat about. Well, we are approaching the end of this webinar, unfortunately, but there is a viewer that asks what being part of this selection, how it has changed your life, and for the future, do you think like this opportunity influenced your way of thinking and your lifestyle and how you see yourself after the application?
Nate, you want to answer this one?
I found it. I was, you know, it still seems like a bit of a dream. It's definitely a story I'll be telling my grandchildren. They won't believe me, but I'll tell them. But it has definitely improved my self-confidence and has made, you know, and it's really nice to have people come up to, you know, they come up to me and say, oh wow, tell us about your astronaut adventure, or what was it like? And people look at you. That I went through a phase of my colleagues are very cynical, and they were like, oh, Neil's gone off to do this crazy thing. But then as I was going through the process and they learned more and more about it, I you know, you got lots of support and praise, and it was really good. And I you know, I wish there was, I wish I could find a way of continuing it, and I haven't quite worked that out, because, you know, I'm sure Laura can have another go at the selection process. I can't. So, you know, yeah, I'm not sure what to do, but I'm quite happy just to sit back and just have that warm glow of I was almost an astronaut. Yeah.
And I think by participating to this webinar and also communicating around you, you are inspiring younger generations who will want to step into your steps, you know, afterwards. So I think that it's great that you did it.
Yeah.
Even though you don't, if you don't get the opportunity to try again.
Well, yeah, it was fun though. It was a tinge of sadness, but it was. I got to pretend to be an astronaut for a little while. Yeah.
But then you don't have any regrets, you know. You did it. You tried. You even went to Hamburg.
Yeah, would regret not applying? Definitely. That would have been a pity. Yes.
Yes.
And I think, so you know, anybody who gets the opportunity and they have a passion for space, you just don't know. You could get through. You know, there is.
Yes, exactly. You were 1 out of 27. Come on, you were so close to it.
Crazy. Do you know the initial number at the beginning? The initial people that applied to the parastronaut.
Sorry, Tanya.
Yeah, you lost me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there were about 250. That they were actually, I think maybe was it maybe 500? I can't remember, but it was in the hundreds. It wasn't. So Laura's achievement statistically is vastly superior to my achievement.
I'm not sure. If we calculate, I think it's about the same thing. Because I think we were 1,500. So yeah, it's not. Yeah, you were when I was in the 5% and you were in the 10%. Let's say like that. It's not. I'm not so far. Well, so in advance compared to you.
Oh, well, in the end, that's amazing in any case, because just for me, the fact that you went through the CV is already crazy. I don't know if you heard me, but
Yes.
like just the first phase is already crazy. So you can be super proud of yourself. Like, I mean, you have a CV of an astronaut. How crazy is that?
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe one last question before we say goodbye. What would you tell yourself maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when you knew it would be a selection maybe coming in the next 5 years? What would you have told yourself at this time? I know you were really you really didn't have the same story back in the days, but what would you have told yourself from back in the days?
Oh, for me, I would say that you don't know what is waiting for you. You think small, and what is waiting for you is really, really big. So don't worry, and things will fall into place. Like what has to happen in your life will happen. So don't stress. Just live with your passion. Do what you love. Live in the present. And if it has to happen, it will happen. And if it doesn't, well, then you have done your best.
Oh, nice words. And you, Neil?
I probably would have told myself to drink less alcohol and eat more antioxidants to make my brain better. So if I had destroyed my memory before it came to the brain training, that was
all the fault of whiskey.
Yeah.
Wise words, Neil. Yeah. Wise words.
No, I wish I'd practiced. I wish I'd started practicing 5 years ago for the brain training. I think that would have been my.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we're arriving at the end of this webinar. Yeah, once again, thank you so much for sharing your experience. Even though it's not maybe the end the outcome that you were expecting, still for me, you're both superheroes, also part of your background and what you do in life outside of the astronaut adventure. And yeah, crazy. Congratulations again for arriving so far in the process. And yeah, thanks again for sharing your experience. And we wish to see you applying maybe to the next one, or to follow your adventure still on social network to see how you're evolving in life as well.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Yes, thank you for the invitation, Tanya. It was nice to meet you and Neil and to share the experience.
Likewise.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and thanks for the attendees as well, the participants to the meeting. We hope that you enjoyed as well, and that you listen wisely to all the words that were said here. We have a lot of thank you message in the chat. But yes, I mean, I don't know if you guys are also open to receive some questions now that everybody has your Instagram and Twitter account. But maybe you will receive some of the questions that were not answered during the webinar.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, sure, of course. Yes. My pleasure.
All right. Well, thanks again, and
thank you, Tanya.
Hear back from you soon, and yeah, thanks a lot once again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.